Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, I'm going to create the Minesweeper game in Unity. So let's start by creating the design document first. So in the design document, first of all, we have the basic outline of the game, how the game is going to work and what elements we are going to include in it and how it will look. So the rules of the Minesweeper game are as follows. The game has a 5x5 board, and each board is a cell. Each cell is a card, and each cell has either a bomb or it represents the number of bombs around that cell. And the initial state, the cell is unrevealed. And on each turn, the player clicks on the cell, and the cell is revealed. So if it has a bomb, then the game finishes. And if it is not a bomb, then we'll show the number of bombs around that cell, and the game is continued till we have found all the bombs, or it finishes if we click any of the bomb. And a bomb is said to be found if all the neighboring positions have revealed. So if we have clicked all its neighbors, then we say that the bomb is found. This is how the game is going to look in Unity. The first one is the restart button. It has a smiley face which shows the default action, and whenever we win, it will show a happy action or a happy smiley, and if we lose, it will show an angry smiley. And the next button is the quit button, which is the bomb here. So when we click on it, the game will quit, and this shows the score, which is the number of bombs remaining. And this is for the timers. So first one is for the minutes and second one is for the seconds. And then we have the title text here. And next up we have the board, which is created of the 5x5 grid of cells, and each cell is a cell prefab. And next we'll have the game manager. So these are the elements which we are going to include: the title text, the restart button, the quit button, the score text, and the timer text for the seconds and the minutes. And the functionality, everything we are going to create it in the game manager. And the elements are the cells, and we'll create a board out of it. And it will also include a board script. So let's do the visual scripting first. So in visual scripting, we'll divide the scene into what we are going to create into multiple parts. So first we need to have a scene, and then we need to have a restart and the quit button. So I have divided into 4 parts. The first one is for the gameplay scene and the UI. So visual scripting, just I'm going to imagine it how I'm going to create the game in Unity. So first let's create a gameplay scene, and it will have a main camera attached to it. Let's set the color of the main camera to the pure gray. We can get it by the color selector of the tile which we have imported. And then we have the canvas, set the render mode to screen space camera, camera to main camera, and the scale mode to scale with screen size. So it can fit on any screen size, and it will have the title text and the restart button, the quit button, and the quit button is going to be inside a score container, and the score container will have the quit button as an image, and we'll add a image renderer to it so we can see it. And then it will have again an image, because we need a background for it, like in the basic scripting here. So this core will have a background of the unrevealed state, and then it will have a text inside it. And next up we have the timer text minutes and the timer text seconds, which again will have a background. And then that's it for the UI. And We'll create the functionality for the UI in the game manager. So next up, we'll create the empty game manager object and create the game manager script and attach to it. Then we'll create the game quit and game restart function and we'll attach to both the objects, and then we'll set up the timer. So for the timer, we'll have two variables, the seconds and the minutes, and one more, which is for the score. And to change the text, we need to refer to the UI, which is the text, which are the seconds text and the score text. And in the await function, we'll set the seconds and the minutes to 0 and score to 5. And we'll change the text of the score also, which are the seconds text, minutes text, and score text to the seconds, minutes, and score. And then we'll start the coroutine, which coroutine is just a function in which we can delay the actions. And to delay, we'll use yield return new wait for seconds, and we'll wait for 1 second. And when we start the timer, the function is called here, and then we'll wait for 1 second. When 1 second is passed, we'll increase the seconds. And if the seconds is greater than or equal to 60, then we'll change the minutes. Then we'll update the seconds, and then we'll again call the start coroutine. So it will again change it after 1 second. So it will call itself, and the timer should be working correctly. And then let's create the board script, and in the awake method, we'll create a board as a new board, and we'll rename the board as my board. And next up, we have the cell prefab, which is the unrevealed state. So we'll add it as a 2D sprite, and we'll add box collider 2D, and we'll set is trigger to true, and we'll add its tag as a cell, and then we'll add the cell script to it and create a prefab and make it a 5x5 grid. And then by the end of it, we should be having something looking like this, which is the image I have included. Now the image is working correctly. We have the game manager. The board is also created. Now we need to set the choices, which are the numbers in the bombs. So let's create that. So in the gameplay scene, we have created a board script. So in the board script, let's create a grid position, which is the row and the column. And then we'll have the choices, which are from 0 till 8. And the last one is the bomb. And in the board class, which is the main class in the board script, we'll have two variables. The first one is the two-dimensional array, or in this game, we are going to create it as a list, 2D list. The first list will contain a list of choice. So in the first parameter, we can get the row, and each row is a list of choice. So we can create a 2D array out of it. And the next one is going to be the random grid, which is a list of grid pods for which the bombs are stored. Random grid is just going to be the whole grid. And in the constructor, we'll set the choices to 0. So the choices are going to be for int I is equals to 0 till 4. And for each iteration, we'll create a list of grid pods, and again we'll iterate it again, and we'll add 0 to it, and then we'll get 5 random grid pods and set that grid position to bombs. So we have the bombs. Now we need to determine the we need to add the numbers for each of the cells. So we'll determine number of bombs around each cell. So it will also happen iteratively after it is done, because before creating the bombs, we can't count the bombs. So it is done at the last. So determine number of bombs around each cell. It will be a different function. So for each cell, we'll check if the for each cell we'll count the neighbors, and we'll add all the neighbors. So it will be a function. and we'll call it at get bomb at or anything else. So it will return if the index is valid. It will return 1 if it is a bomb and the index is valid. If the index is valid or it is not bomb, so it will return 0. So if the it is a bomb, then it will return 1. So whenever we call that function on a grid position, it will return the number of bombs around it, and depending on the number, we'll set the choice at that cell to be 1 to 8 or 0 0. We have already done it. So that's it for the constructor function, in which we have all the bombs position and we have set up the number. Now let's create a method to get that number. So we'll call it at get number at, and we'll pass two parameters, row and column, and we'll return the choice at that row and column, which we have stored it in the choices, which is the 2D array. And then in the awake method, we'll create that new board. Now let's start creating the cell script. The cell script, we have an integer of row and column, and it will have a choice of my choice and a boolean of has clicked to check if we need to click it again. So in the start function, we'll set the my choice from the board. We'll call it from the game manager instance, then my board, and then we'll call get number at, and from get number at we'll pass the row and the column, then we'll get the choice. So depending on the choice, we can set all the different sprites. So it will have multiple sprites. The first one is going to be unrevealed, then it is going to be bombed, and next one is going to be diffused, and the last one is going to be the indexed, and then we'll have all the numbers from 0 to 8. So in update turn, we'll set the sprite depending on the choice, and we'll set has click to true. And in update bomb, we'll set the sprite to bombed, and again has click to true. And diffuse bomb is going to be the same. So in it, we'll set the sprite to diffuse bomb. And in update flag, again we'll set the sprite to update flag. So we have created the board script, and we can get the if it is a bomb or the number, and we can call it from the cell script. So at the end of this step, we should have all the numbers working correctly, and we should get the number of bombs around each cell. So if we call the update turn function in the start function, instead of setting the sprite to unrevealed, it will set the sprite to whatever value is that, so we can check if it is working correctly. So this step is also done. Now we have all the numbers in the game objects and in the sprites. Next, we need to click that sprite, and then we need to update that turn. So let's create it in the game manager. So in the game manager, we'll add one variable, which is the has game finished, and next up we'll have score. And in the update function, we'll check if the button is pressed, and before that we'll check if the game has finished. If the game has finished, then we'll do nothing, and if the button is pressed, then we'll do a raycast and get the collider. If the collider is null, we'll do nothing. So if not hit dot collider, which will be true, then we'll compare the tag. So after comparing the tag, we'll get the reference to the script, which is a cell script, and store it in a new variable. And if it is clicked, we'll do nothing. Then we'll update the turn. So after this step, whenever we click a cell, instead of the start function, we can update the turn, and it should work fine. So up till this step, we can click all the cells. Now, if the cell is bomb, then we'll set has game finish to true, and we'll call the end game function. And in the end game function, for now, we'll just stop the timer, which is stored in a coroutine, and we'll return the update function. So the game is finished if we are going to click a bomb, which we won't have other functionalities for now. Now, next we'll get the score. So it is stored in score. Initially, it is 5. So we'll first add the previous score and store it in an integer, and then we'll get the score from the board.getScore. Which will create it as a new method, and for now let's return 5 for it. So the score is always going to be 5, and we'll set the score text depending on the score, and the game is finished, so we are going to win the game if the score is equal to 0. Then we'll set has game finished to true, and then we'll call the win game function. And again, in the win game function, we'll stop all the coroutines. We cannot win the game now because the score is not going to update, and we have not set the functionality for counting the score. So up till this step, I should have the end game, and we can get the score. The score is not going to be uh, viewed correctly, but we can get it and set the score from there. The timer should be working, and all the UI functionalities are set. Now we need to get the score. So for the score, we'll go inside the board script, and for getting the score, we need to check if the bombs we need to check if every cell around the bombs is clicked. So we need to store the clicked, and it's going to be stored in a dictionary. So for each grid position, we'll refer it to a bool, and in the awake function, we'll set it to false. And whenever we click, we'll set that grid position to true. So whenever the bombs are created, we'll add that grid position to the diffuse bombs, and to get the score. First, we'll set has clicked for that grid position to true. So in get the score, we'll pass the rows and calls, which we can get it from the cell script which we have referenced, and we can pass it as a function, and uh, we can store it in the score, so we can get the score and we'll return the score. So for counting the score, we'll do for each bomb, and we'll count the score. So for each bomb, uh, we'll get the score at the position. So for each bomb, when we'll get the score, so the score is counted as the 1 if the bomb is unrevealed. If the bomb is revealed, the score is counted as 0. So for each bomb, we'll create first a list of grid position, which are the difference between all the cells around it. So 0, 1 is going to be the uppermost cell, and 0th row and -1 is going to be the bottom, the left, right, and all the corners. And for each cell, we'll add that temporary difference to the bomb cell. So if we add the difference of the top, we'll get the top row. If we add it to the right, we'll get the right row. If we add it to the bottom, we'll get the bottom row. If the whatever the cell we are going to refer, which is the top, bottom, left, right, if it is inside range and any of the cell is unrevealed, so we have not revealed any of the cell, then we'll return 1, because the bomb, we need all of them to be revealed, so has clicked should be set to true, and if not has clicked, then we'll return 1. And it if it is always going to inside range. If it is not inside range, then we'll return 0. Then hmm, the score will be count like this. So we'll get we'll get the number of for each bomb we'll get one only if any of the cell is unrevealed. So if any of the cell is unrevealed, which is not a bomb, we'll get one, else will return zero. So we have stored the bomb in the grid position, and for has clicked we have created the dictionary so we can get it from there. So it should work until we are going to see it in Unity, and we'll get the number of bombs because we need to update the bombs. So we'll get the bombs, and it's going to similar. So for each bomb, if get score at position at bomb is equals to 0. So if it is 0, it means that bomb is already revealed. We have all the cells around it clicked, or it is a bomb, then we'll add that bomb to the result. And whichever cells has been found, they are going to add it in the results, so we can get all the index cells. We can flag around it, and which we are going to do in the game manager. So when we are going to flag it, when in the in this turn we have found a new bomb. So initially the number of bombs was 5, and if we found a bomb, then we'll get one less bomb to be found. So the next score will be lower and the previous score will be higher. So if previous score is higher than score, then we'll get the bombs, and for each bomb we'll set it to be the update flag, and for the update flag we need to reference it from the grid position, and again we'll create a dictionary, but instead of boolean we'll store a game object, and it's going to be dictionary from grid position to game object of cells, and we'll update this dictionary whenever each cell is created. So we'll update it in the cell script. So in the cell script, the start function will call game manager instance all cells, and depending on the row and position, will pass the reference to the game object, and similar inside the bombs. If it is a bomb, then we'll pass the reference to the bomb. So if the score is higher, then we'll get the bombs, and for each bomb we'll update the flag, and the flag is updated. So we should have a working game till now. So let's add some narratives for the UI. So in the win game, the game is going to be won when we have found all the cells. So for each bomb in bombs, we'll defuse the bombs because we have set the sprite to defuse bombs, uh, set the sprite to flag. But when the game is finished, we need to show that it is diffused. So we have the diffuse bomb update to diffuse bomb function, and similarly in the end game we'll update the bombs, and we'll update all the turns. So at the end of the scripting we should have a working game. Now let's start creating the game in Unity. So let's go inside Unity and let's start creating the game. So in Unity I have created a new scene and called it as game manager, and created the 3 folders. The first one is for the prefabs, and the next one is for the script, in which I already create the empty game manager script, and uh, next one is for the sprites. Where are the sprites? Let's add the sprites inside it. So sprites I already created it and sliced it so we can get each cell. Now let's start creating the game. So at first I have set the background color. Now let's add the text first, and we'll call it title text or just title, and the title is going to be Minesweeper. And let's update the canvas. Render camera to face camera and main camera 1080 by 1920 and match width or height to 0.5. You can see perfectly. And the title going to position at the bottom. Font size should be 72 and bold. The width is going to be 1000 by 120 and it says Minesweeper. Let's position it at 00, bottom center, and set the text to be positioned at center and in the 5 to 75. So the text we are working correctly. Now, after the text, we need to add the buttons. So the first button, UI, and let's add a button and we'll call it restart, just the start, and we'll delete the text. Let's position it at the top center, position it at 00, and for the sprite, we'll set the sprite to be the default one, and let's set the native size. So and let's position it at negative 120. So let's change the size to 200 by 200 and position at negative 100, 200, 300. Let's position it at negative 4. And let's create the timer. So for the timer, first let's call it minutes. So next up we have the bombs, and the bombs is going to be inside a score, inside the empty score canvas. And inside the score have a UI and a have text, but with text, the quit, the image is going to be the bomb, and set the width 100 by 100, and let's position it at the top here, and hit a 125. Let's position it here. So that is for the quit button. Again, we'll have an image UI, and this one is a button. Let's add an image UI image. Let's position it at 0. Image will have a background of white, and set this red, and let's position it negative left 500, negative 2. So it fits correctly, the size is all right, and inside this image, let's call it score bg, and inside this image we'll have text, and we'll call it bombs, just bombs, and let's position it to the center and bold, and change the size to 160 of new text will just show the initial number of bombs, 60 for it, 128. So 128 is working correctly. Now let's change the color. The color is going to be the bright red or bomb. Now we need to add the two timers, and again the timers are going to be images. So let's create a background and we'll call it timer -m, which is the timer for the minutes, and let's position it to the top 35, and the size is going to be 200 by 200, and let's position it at 200, and the sprite is going to be this one, and this one is named timer s, that stands for timer seconds, and let's position 400, and let's add a text element to it. So inside both of them we'll add text. This text we are going to call it minutes, and at first it shows 00. Position is well, position it at center, and 28, and let's 128 instead of 1 to 100. 128 should be fine. And let's change the color to be the blue ones, so this dark blue, and similarly it for the seconds, and side seconds will set it to 00, and bold let it be completely fit, position it towards the center, change the size to 128. Similarly the color to the dark blue. So we have all the UI. Let's add the game manager. So create a key, call it game manager, and inside the game manager we'll add the game manager script, and let's create the card. So the card is just going to be a 2D object. So inside sprites, let's bring the cell, name the cell as a cell. We are not going to change any of the settings, and let's save it as a prefix. Now delete it, create an empty game object, call it board, save it as a prefab, delete it from here. Now let's start creating the board. Open the board. First we have the cell, the position it as 00. Don't need to add anything for now. Let's create it 5 times, and let's change the position to 2, 1. Okay, so size. What is size of bytes? Pixels per unit is 100. Size, change the pixels per unit. So let's change the pixels per unit to 128 so it fits perfectly. So this will be positioned 1, 2, and the next two are going to be positioned at -1 and minus. Now duplicate it again. I put 1, to 8, 2, 1. Let's duplicate it again and set the y post. So we have the basic template for our board ready. Now let's bring the board inside the C. So the size is working correctly, and we have the board and we have the cell. Now let's create the scripts. Script. Now let's create the board script, and the next one is going to be the cell script, and we'll attach cell script to the prefab itself. Let's add first box collider 2D and it is trigger to true. Add the cell script, the tags, tag, tag, and inside the cell, change the tag. So everything's working for the cell. Now let's create the timer, the game quit, and the game restart function. So let's go inside the game manager. So in Visual Studio. So in Visual Studio, first let's create the game quit, the game restart function, void game quit, application quit, and next one is going to be the public void game. Here will game engine dot scene management dot scene manager dot load scene 0 add application dot quit to add set the condition for the Unity editor, tag hash Unity and slash editor, and we'll do Unity editor dot editor application dot playing it to be false, and if the game quit and the game restart is working, so now let's add the int. The first one is minutes, and third one is going to be this, and of this integers. Let's bring the UI, the engine.ui. Let's bring the text. We are going to make serialized field text. Let's seconds text, let's text, and the score. Now let's create the update function, sorry, the awake function, and inside awake we'll set score to 0, minutes to 0, and seconds to 0. And next up we'll have seconds text dot text 00. Similarly, minutes text dot text is going to be 0. The score text dot text is going to be now. We need to update the timer, so we'll create an I enumerator, like timer. Let's call it run timer, and by run timer, first we return new wait for seconds. For of seconds, we are going to is going to new, and let's call the start coroutine. Coroutine we are going to after 1 second the time it from, and after 1 second what we'll do is increase the second, and if seconds is greater than or is equals to 60, then we'll set seconds to 0, and we'll increase the number of minutes, and we'll update the minutes. At minutes text is equals to, if minutes is greater than 9, then we'll do minutes dot to string as we'll do 0 plus minutes. So we have updated the minutes. Now if the seconds is not increasing, and we'll update the second. Instead of minute text, let's change it to text. Instead of minutes. So the timer is working. Now let's go inside Unity and find all the functions. Inside Unity, the game manager, let's add the seconds text, and this one is, oh, everything's working correctly. Let's press play. So the timer is working. Let's add the functionality for the buttons. At the start, add the game restart function. Side quit. Let's add the game quit. Let's see if it is working. So press the bomb, the game quit. And if we press restart, timer and the game start. So we have all the cells and we have the timer working. We can quit the game. So that was just the beginning. This one's going to be a long video. Now we added all the cells. Now we need to create the boards. So let's go inside Unity. I'll check what part I have completed in the. So the first part is completed. The cell script is added. Now we need to create the board script. So let's start editing the board script. So let's go inside Visual Studio and let's open the board script. So side scripts, I'll add open both scripts. So this one script, this one is board is not going to inherit from behavior, and I won't need the start and the update function. Let's create the constructor function, call it public board. And inside the board we'll have all the variables. So the variables for that we'll need choices. So all public enum, call it choice, id choice, will have 0, 1, 2, 4, 7, and the last one is with rounded. Let's add a public struct of type grid pose as a public integer of go and call. So these are the grid position. Now the first one is going to list the 2D list. So the list will have another list. This is a list of the type choice. And we'll call it choices. Next one is going to be the whole grid position. So it's going to grid pose. And this one will call it as random grid because we are going to get a random grid. So inside the board function, let's create a random grid is equals to new list of grid. The choices choices is the new list of list choice. Now let's set the choices to 0 first. So for int for I is equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. Now let's create a temporary list of type choice. Let's call it list of choice. And again we'll iterate it. For j is equals to 0, j less than 5, plus plus. We'll add 0 to it. So we'll say temp dot add choice dot 0. And at the end of each loop, we'll choices dot add of temp have the beginning here, and we need to add it to the random grid too. So we'll do random grid dot add a new grid pose, grid pose. This one is going to be row is equals to I, or call is equals to. So we have the random grid ready, the choices are added. Now let's add the bombs. So to add the bombs, we'll add 5 bombs. I is equals to I less than 5, I plus plus, and first we'll get a temporary grid pose. So grid pose temp For temporary grid pose, we'll need a temporary grid pose function which will return a random grid position from the random grid. Call it get random grid, and let's do grid pose temp x with random dot range from 0 till random grid dot count. Let's set the temp. We add the random grid and at that index. Random grid dot remove at index, and after removing we'll return the temp. So whenever this function is called, it will get a random index and get the temporary variable at that random index and return it. So grid post temp is equals to get random grid, and we'll set the choices at that row and calls. So it's put into dot row dot call equals to choice dot bomb. So we have all our bombs ready. Now let's create a function to get the bombs. So we'll call it at get numbers at. So it will go into public choice get number at, pass parameters row all, and will return choices at that row a column. So we can get the choices. Now we just need to change the number of bombs, so we'll do it afterwards. Let's change in the cell script. So in the cell script, the game manager, the awake, let's create a new board function. So let's add was the public static game manager instance. Side awake if instance equals to n equals to this, else destroy the game objects, so we can get the reference manager, call it instance, and let's create a new board objects. Call it board at my board, side my board, set my board to be a new board. My board equals to new board. Now let's get the reference to the board in the cell scripts. Right cell. First we need a public bool has clipped, and we'll public choice my choice, and we'll have a serialized field for sprites. Right, and the sprite are going to be unrevealed. bombed, flagged, diffused, and a list of sprites. We are again going to see nice type sprite, and we'll call it just sprites, and sprite renderer, call it renderer. Start function will first set has clicked is equals to false. Renderer is equals to get component sprite renderer. And after that, we'll set renderer dot sprite equals to unrevealed. We'll set up the choice. So my choice equals to, we'll need the two rows and calls. Click int call renderer dot sprite is equals to unrevealed. Okay, my choice is equals to game manager dot instance dot my board dot get number at, and the number at we are going to pass the row and the column, and we don't need the update function, so delete it, and we'll create a public void, call it update turn, and inside update turn we'll say sprite current equals to my choice equals to choice dot zero, and set the sprite to sprites of 0. At the last, set it to be bombed. So we'll add everything afterwards, but first we have everything to be 0. So let's see if it is working correctly. So we'll say renderer dot sprite equals to current, and, we'll say has click equals to, and let's call this function. We'll call this function inside the sprites. So where it is, dot render. So everything is working. So let's go inside Unity and see if the script is working. There should be no errors. Okay, it is working. The board is not shown. We have not added the sprites inside this. So inside the cell, let's add all the sprites. So the first one is going to be the unrevealed one, and the one flagged 15th one, and diffuse, and let's add objects, and this 9 are going to be this for 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so now let's play, and we have everything. Now we didn't call the update turn function, so now let's call the update turn function in the start. Let's see how it is going to work. So it should have the bomb, and showing the bombs. Okay. Ah, now it's shown. Okay. And we need to set the indexes. So let's go inside the board prefabs and let's set up all the indexes. First cell, let's click it from here. This one is 0, 0. This one is 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. One is 0, 4. One is row first. Let's see if it is working. Comes here. Assembly spawn forms. Now let's change the other ones. 2, 1, all 2, all 3. This one is all whole row is row 3. Column 1. Upper row is going fourth row. 4, 0, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now we have set up the index. Let's see. We should see 5 bombs. So it has 5 bombs. Again 5 bombs, 5 bombs, and the bombs are total number of 5. I added the bombs and we can call the update turn. Now let's copy. Let's create the other functions and we should be done with the cell. Now the next part I need to do is the number of. Okay, so let's do the update bomb, diffuse bomb, and the update flag. Right, Visual Studio. Let's do the update form first. Right, form that renderer dot sprite equals to bombed. Has click to true. Again, public void bomb will say has click to true. Renderer dot sprite equals to diffuse. Again, public void it flag say renderer dot sprite flag and has click. So everything is work. Everything should be working. Now inside the game manager, inside the board, we need to add the choices, and inside the cell. So here, do all option 0, 1. This let's go. choices dot 0 1, the next is going to be 2, 3, then we'll have for the 4 5 6 7, and last one's going to be 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Last one for the 0 1 2 3. There is going 4 5 7 6, and this one matches that formed. So let's go inside the board script and let's add the bombs to it. We'll create a new function for it and we'll call it set up the numbers. Create the function first. Voids first. I'll set up the numbers here. And inside set up the numbers, we'll do for I is equals to 0 less than 5 plus again I is equals to 0 less than 5 plus instead of I will have G here. Okay, here now we'll do is update the score at each individual cell. So create another function for it. And we'll call it as get number of bombs at will be a void at number of bombs. It will pass two parameters. The first parameter is going to be the row index, going to be the will pass get number of bombs columns, so I comma j cell. Inside the get number of bombs, what we'll do if choices at that row and column equals to bomb, then we'll return. We don't need to change it because it's a bomb, right? If it is not a bomb, we'll store the number of bombs inside the function, and that function is going to be called int get bombs at position. So it will return 0 it will return if choices at that row and their column, if the choices is bomb, then it will return 1, else it will return. So if it is a bomb, we'll get a 1. If it is not a bomb, get 0. Now we'll get the bombs at each location, and we need to check if it is side bounds. If row is greater than row is less than 5, column is less than 5, and column is greater than 0, and row is greater than, so the valid index, return it, and if it is an invalid index, we'll just return. So we'll get the bombs at all 8 surrounding positions. So we'll pass get bombs at, and parameters we are going to pass. First is going to be the row, or the same row plus 1 and row minus 1s, for the same column, which is going to be the left and the right. So get bombs at -1, all. So this is for the left, this is right, plus get bombs at the same row. The row is decreasing, but the column is top and bottom. Row is same, but the column is decreasing, so this one is left, plus get bombs at right, same row, increased column, plus get bombs at, let's do the decreasing. So row and column are decreased by 1, so row -1, and then column -1, plus get bombs at, and then we'll do row +1, column plus. And the next position remaining is row +1, column -1, get bombs at row +1, comma, column minus. Last one is going to be the get bombs at row +1, and okay, the row is increased and increased. Now the row should be increased. Row is increased. Column is increased. Column is increased. Now row should be decreased and column should increase. So it's get column +1, row my at the same column, top and the bottom, and depending on the bombs, we'll set the choices at that row, call, to be equal to bombs is equals to 1, set the choice one forms is equals to choice forms is equals to true, the choice is true, and let's now just again 1 2 3 4 we have 5 6 7, and the last one is going to be, and if it is not anything else, so we are changing each bomb, and let's do 5 6 7 8. If it is not anything else, then it is 0. Now should be working. Let's go inside Unity, start play. Let's hit play. Script is working. There's two bombs around it. It's only one around it. Only one around it. The timer is working, and we can see all the bombs. Now let's go. What we need to do? Let's go inside the visual scripting. We created the board. We updated the game manager and the cell, and we can get the number from the cell. Now we need to do is create the click functionality and getting the score. So let's go inside game manager and let's do the click function. So for the click, we have already created the tag. So let's go inside Visual Studio. Let's go inside Unity. Let's create all the scripts we'll need, all the variables. So the first variable we are going to need is only the has game finished, and call it bool as game. The awake function will add has game finished. So let's create the it create the update function. Why is it always okay? Because we added the time. The update. It is called every frame if mono behavior is enabled. Canvas state. So it's not running because no, it doesn't run after the awake method. So created before the update functions. So let's create the here. So inside the update function, we'll first check if has game finished. The game is finished, then we'll do nothing. And inside check if put dot get mouse button down 0. Mouse button is pressed. Get mouse button down of 0. Then we'll check if it hits the collider. So first we'll do is first we'll raycast, and inside raycast let's have vector 3 pose camera world point of, and create a vector 2 pose 2D equals vector 2 of and pose dot x and pose dot and do a raycast. The raycast 2D, call it hit 3 dot raycast. Inside that raycast and pose 2D dot 0. Let's check if nothing hits the collider dot collider, then we'll return else if dot collider dot compare tag, and if the tag is cell, then first we'll get a reference to the cell. Cell is equals to dot collider dot game object dot get component and call it cell, and we'll just do cell dot return. Return was not public. Public void EDA. Okay. Let's remove the update turn in the start function. Get it out. And let's go inside Unity if we can see it. No references are found. Whenever you click, thing is going wrong. Go inside game manager dot collider dot compare text cell, put dot get mouse as a tag of cell. Let's do if it is checking the inputs. So debug dot now test. Oh, error. Let's go inside the cell and this trigger is set to true, and we have everything working correctly. But I don't cells game manager. We have 3 reference. Only update is not working correctly. Now let's see before update if it's working out first. it is working, only the update function is not working. I think it may, okay, has game finished to false. It should work now. I just said has game finished to true in the awake. So it was the update done. And only I have changed the has game finished to false. But it was working. Now let's comment out the update turn and let's see if it is working. So whenever you click an object, again something, we click here, there may be some problem with the collider, prefabs, L. Okay, so the collider is working fine inside the board. All the colliders are working fine. What's the problem? It pressed. If input dot get mouse button of 0, let's go inside scripting and let's see, check if input dot get mouse button of 0, I think it may be problem with the camera dot main dot, okay, screen to world point. Problem was here, screen to world point, and then it should work correctly. So and let's get rid of that dot log. If it, so 3 2, you can see it clearly. You can see all the everything with the game, and as you can see, we can restart the game. So we can click and reveal all the cells, but let's add another functionality, which is going to be game over whenever you click a bomb and score. So I'll get back to my visual scripting and the game manager is created. Now I need to get the score. So for getting the score, let's go into Visual Studio and get the score in the board script. The board script will need another two variables, and the variables are going to be, let's go inside the board script. The variables are going to be the list of the diffused bombs, which is a list of type grid pose, and we'll call it, let's just call it bomb for now. The one is going to be the dictionary. Next, grid pose to boolean, call it has clicked, and inside the constructor we'll set the bomb to new list of pose and has clicked to be a new dictionary. And whenever the choice is updated, we'll set has clicked at that position to be false. At what position? Pass a new grid pose. Inside that grid pose, we'll say row is equals to I, comma, column is equals to at that grid position. We don't have anything clicked, and we need to add the bombs. So bombs dot add, and we'll add the temporary grid position. Bombs position is added, and we have created everything to be false. Clicked anything. Now let's create first the get score. So it's going to return an integer. Need to be public. So we'll public int all get score, and it also needs to update the board. So we'll call the row and the column. Let's do first return 5 for now. Side get score. Let's first set score to 0 for each grid pose of bombs. We'll add the score. Add the score equals to let score at position. Inside the position, we'll pass the bomb. Let's create the get score at positions. So it will int at position, pass a grid pose. The grid pose is going to be, let's temp. Let's return 0 for now. Now it will return 0 when any of the conditions is not passed. So if the condition is passed, it will return once. Here 0 refers to the bomb is found, and 1 refers to the bomb is not. So the bomb is not going to found if any of the surrounding position is not clicked. So let's create a new grid pose. Yes, pose, and call it this, and set it to be a new list of type grid pose. Add it to create. So the first one is grid pose. The row is to the left and the right. One column is equals comma row is equals to 1, column is equals to top and the down. Column is going to increase, the row to 0. The down, the column is decrease, and the row is set to let's do from bottom left. Both are going to be -1, and the top right, both are going to be +1. Two more positions. Let's do from top left. So the row is decreased by 1 and the column is increased by 1. And last one is going to be the bottom right. So we have the top left, row is decreased by 1, column is increased by 1. Row is increased by 1 and column is decreased by 1. So for all the position list, we'll check First, for each uh, grid pose, what we call it, cell pause list, will check. Let's do temp-row. We'll call it at temp.row plus cell.row and int call equals to dot call plus cell.call. So if the position is valid, so if temp row is greater than equal to 0 and temp call is greater than equal to 0 and temp row is less than 5 and temp call is less than 5, then we'll check if as clicked, and we'll check if it is not clicked, not as clicked, at new grid pose, and the grid pose as row equals to temp row comma call equals to temp. So if it is not has clicked, then we'll check if it is not bomb. So if choices at temp row temp call not equal to bomb, then what we'll do, if it is not bomb, first one is going to not has clicked, has clicked. Okay, then we'll return 1. So if it is unrevealed, then we'll return 1, and after everything of this we'll return, here we'll return. So inside game manager we'll get the score, cell dot update turn. Now let's do if cell dot my choice equals to, then we'll say has game finished equals to true, and we'll pass the function win game, and we'll do it. Let's create that function. So this void and win game, sorry, lose game, and inside lose game we'll just do routine. Here we'll pass lose game. So we should be able to lose the game. Let's see if it is working. Revealed. Okay, the timer is stopped and the game is finished. We run the game again. Where are all? Again, the timer is stopped. The game. So the end game is working, but we need to add some extra features. Now let's see if the update score is working. So if the choice is bomb, game is finished. Now, if the choice is not bomb, then what we need, Let's get the score first. So we'll do previous score is equals to score, and let's get the score equals to my board dot get score, pass the cell dot row, cell dot, so we can get the score. Now update the score. So we'll score text dot text just score dot to string, and after updating the score, we'll check if the score 0, then we'll say has game finished, and we'll do win game. Created it app, but created afterwards, and inside win game, we'll do stop all coroutines, and hmm, if previous score is greater than 4, uh, do something, and is going each. Let's create the get bombs. So after get score, pick list of time grid pose, and it will to call it at get bombs. Pass, and let's create a new list. Type pose, call it result equals to new list of type grid pose, and for each grid pose of bombs, if get score at position, at bomb. So if it is already counted, then we'll add it to the results. Result dot add bomb, and we'll return the result. So we can get the position of all the revealed bombs, and this one gets the score. This one gets the position of all the revealed bombs. Nothing should be left for the board. Board is finished, and inside the cell we need to add the bombs and the reference to the game object, and inside the game manager we need to change the sprite. We need to change the sprite and game. Let's add the references for the game objects. Inside the game manager, let's create a reference for bombs. This one is going to be public list of game objects. Call it bombs. Inside the await function, we'll set up this one public list game object. grid pose game object will call it dictionary pose to game object, and we need to set it up inside the awake function apps to start and timer. Creating the new board, I need to create the all cells first to new array and forms equals to new list of game object, and need to call it from cell. So inside the start function, if my choice equals to bomb, then we'll add game manager dot instance dot bombs dot add the game object inside it, and after that add game manager dot instance dot all cells. All cells is object, grid position is going to be new, grid pose row is going to be row, column is going to be the column, and cell is completed. Now inside the game manager, whenever we have won the game, we need to defuse all the bombs for each. Grid pose of bomb we have created as the game objects. So add the game object bombs. We'll do dot get component, get the cell, say diffuse the bomb. So all the bombs are going to be diffused. Hide the loop. Fill all the cells. So for each, blast all the bombs. Bombs. Bomb dot get component. Cell get bomb. Get all the bombs, and for each key value pair type grid pose to game object pair all cells pair dot value dot get component cell dot get cell. Will update the turn for every game object. So the lose game and the win game should diffuse and blast everything. Now the last thing we need is the update score. So inside the update score, we'll get for each grid pose. The grid pose is just going to bomb, add bomb, call my board.get bombs, and we'll call all cells We have the bomb. All cells at bomb dot get component inside the cell to update flag. So the flags are updated and the score is 0. The game is finished. Score is also updated. Score is also finished. We have the lose game and the win game. So let's see if there are any bugs. So let's go and see. Let's hit play. Why is there only one remaining? 4, 3. Maybe some problem. Should always show. Click on 1 and it shows. Okay, I think maybe something reverse is happening. Play again. We click on 4. Let's check the functionality for. Let's add the smileys. Let's go ahead the studio. The bomb, lose game and the win game function. So let's add sprites. So the first one is going to be realize field image, call it C, and you are going to be the serialized field. Win and lose. Where we win, the sprite is going to dot sprite is equal to the lose change dot sprite is equal. Let's go inside the cell. Get score. Inside the board there should get score. If not, has clicked. If it is not a bomb. Hmm. We don't need to return 0 here. It should work now. Maybe, maybe not. Check. Oh my. Object reference. So we need to add the. So the smiley is the start. Rights are going to lose. Add. Start. One is here, but we have not changed for the index. Maybe it was not found. Let's hit play. It takes two. Okay. There. Oh my. Score is not changing. We can see the smiley whenever we win the game, but we lose the game, we cannot see it. Now let's go inside Visual Studio and let's see where's the problem. So if Tempro is valid, then we'll check. If it has not clicked, check if it is not a bomb. So if it is a bomb, it will do nothing. But if it is not a bomb and we have not clicked it, then we'll return it. Else it will return 0. Hmm. Let's go inside Unity and we need to play the game multiple times. See where date again. Well, bad luck. Form should be here. Whole lane is clear. Click. So it has one. This one, the score is not updated here. Score should update, but it is not updating. B maybe. So inside the cell, inside the game manager, we'll check. Okay, we add the previous score after the score. Let's play again. Oh, yeah, it's too annoying. I need to check values. So inside the center, it has one, and one is around here. Debugging is too difficult. We need to play the game again and again. And I'll check directly. First set the previous score, get the score, then we'll update the score. Updating, check if score is greater than previous score. Update the flag. Let's play it again.